Welcome to our open house here at the IKYA Center. My name is Andy and I am the operations manager here.
My name is Nora and I'm a coordinator here at the center. Warm welcome to all of you. Also
everybody.
Online.
Yes, everybody online as well. Thank you, Rick, for hosting online. And yeah, it's really wonderful to have so many new faces and familiar faces here tonight. Yeah.
Just amazing, and we can all feel the gravitational pull to such an evening, an event.
And there's some alignment tonight, isn't there, in the planets?
Oh, yes. Sun, Jupiter, Moon, all on a line with Earth, assisting consciousness. Well, there's always a system, but today it's obvious.
Yeah. So
anyway,
we thought we'd try something a little different tonight to set the tone. So for those of you who were at our summer party this past Saturday, which just for context was absolutely amazing, you guys. The weather was perfect. We were out at this gorgeous farm east of Oslo, and yeah, it was just a truly celebratory moment.
Yeah, co-creational.
Yeah.
So we will make that next year as well.
Yes, but we thought we would start tonight to set the tone for the evening and to really tune us into kind of what the purpose of spiritual study is for real. We'd like to read a poem that we read at the party because it really touches on such beautiful opportunities that life presents us for growth and expansion. So we invite you to go ahead and close your eyes and just listen as Nora and I read together this poem. It's called If, and written by Rudyard Kipling in the United States. So, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, do not deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise.
If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stop and build them up, worn out tools.
If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and then risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on.
If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither fools nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distant run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it.
And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So you can allow your eyes to gently open, and tonight's open house is also of an open heart. We are so grateful that every one of you wanted to be here tonight with us and to learn more about what this whole project with IKYA is about.
And exploring what life has in offer with complete different angles that we think is the truth.
Studying the physics of life and how it works is truly challenging, and yet also the most rewarding thing, at least I've ever done in my life.
And what we do when we study with IKYA, we share and we do it together.
Yeah.
And we find joy in every person's success in making small and big steps.
So we've set the tone, we've welcomed you. Let's do a very short little intuning meditation. to then invite IKYA to come in and join us. So this time now, sit up and extend your spine as you close your eyes and begin to breathe deeply into your heart. Really focusing on your heart and seeing your heart as a ball of golden light. And connect with the love and the presence in yourself as you listen to your heart. And you can see the light flowing through your body. Gradually, this light fills your entire body and your entire self. And notice how you're beginning to feel open, relaxed, and focused. And with your inner eye now, you can just observe your entire body and your entire being this spiritual light and this spiritual love. And now, whether you've ever met him or not, you can begin to focus on IKYA as a form and start by seeing that form. But notice that the physical form is also made of light. And as you look at him, as you focus on his face and his eyes, you start seeing beyond the physical form, seeing that his body is starting to dissolve into light. And as it dissolves, gradually a huge column of spiritual light appears to you, and you can feel the high vibration and the love, and you connect with the consciousness in the column. And as you connect, you start moving towards the column, and then you move into the column of light. And immediately sense the vibration and the presence of IKYA, the sense of oneness, the infinite spiritual love and wisdom. And then just let yourself dissolve in it. And let this column of IKYA, this column of light, wash through you and lift your consciousness so that you feel you are getting lighter and more focused. And you can see that this column of light expands and expands until there is a space of everyone taking part in tonight's open house, also online, all over the planet. You can see that all the other participants are also in their high frequency light form. And in this column of light together, we share the love, we share the wisdom, and we share the connectedness. And throughout the evening tonight, seek to connect with IKYA, the consciousness, the teachings on the inner, and seek that exchange of love through the heart. And allow your eyes to remain closed for a moment more, and IKYA will ask you to open your eyes when he's ready.
Welcome, all of you. Being not as a spiritual seeker, but seeking truth, seeking higher consciousness. It is the most normal thing of all. All life forms. And evolution itself is a journey reaching higher potential. It's all we ever do. All life forms, no matter the level of evolution, we all seek higher potential. We all want to become all we know we can be. And this is basically what nature is. So seeking truth, seeking higher consciousness is not only normal, it is the only thing. We're all doing it in different ways. So why are we making it so weird? Right? It's the most normal, commonplace thing of all. Behind everything everyone's doing, it's that. So why are we making it so strange? when we look at spirituality and religion on this planet, it is peculiar because it all turns into power games, ego games, hierarchy, secrecy. You know, I got it and you don't. My path is more true than yours. And it's completely unnecessary. All of that is fluff. In these teachings, we focus on what's left when everything is peeled away. And I mean everything. Because it's only then there is truth. And it's very simple. These teachings are not about who knows more, who's got the right beliefs, the right practices. It's simply training you so you may find truth in your own way, in a way that is natural to you, your own evolution, your own path. Because no matter who you are, what you are, and where you are, God is already speaking to you. You don't have to go somewhere special or become someone else or have a specific belief. God is already speaking. But as beings, we have forgotten. Not only that, because it's what life is showing us, it can't be that special. It has to be something else. It has to be, more advanced somehow. But your communication with truth, your spiritual journey or spiritual awakening, I hate to tell you this, but it's right here and now in your life. It's in your everyday life. Everything that you're already doing, already that life has already shown you, what his life is trying to show you. But we're often not paying attention. So we want it to be something else. But that doesn't help because we're already not paying attention. So we go seek different teachers, different paths, and we're still not paying attention. We're still not present. Because we want the conversation to be something else. But it's not. The conversation is already happening. God is already speaking to you. Running around will not make the voice clear. It's in your end. So a principle we work with is that you should never seek truth. You should only prepare for it. It's always in our end. And the thing is, when this conversation is the most natural thing happening, and we want to make it into something else, then we make up all these beliefs and strange things. So we can claim that we're listening. So we can claim that God is speaking to me, big deal, speaking to everyone. But we turn it into games. You are already, and you have always been on a journey of awakening. And every time you've been able to take one step forward, it's because somehow you were able to listen to God that one time, just a little bit. And you moved. spiritual awakening and spiritual practices, in essence, is learning how to do this all the time. Instead of it happening kind of randomly, and something happened and you're not aware of what it is, you can study, you can figure it out, and you can repeat, and you can learn how to do it so that the conversation is in full awareness. So you can figure out how to expand, how to go beyond the limits of the self, go beyond all of this, which does not exist, and yet it does apparently. Now this is why it's tricky, this is why it's difficult. Because it's one thing for me to say this does not exist, but all your senses are telling you that it does. So, then what? And this is why in spiritual traditions, for the most part, the solution has been, well, cancel all of this. Let's gather on a mountaintop in a hut and sit there and not focus on anything else than God. Because all of this is just a distraction. Not understanding that this is the language. This is the communication. This is where we journey. And the voice of God can be heard very clearly through everything if we listen. And it doesn't make any clearer if you remove all the words, all the messages. And this is something we figure out once we've done it for long enough. Once we've gone through lifetimes and cycles of lifetimes, trying to figure it out, because your journey is one of awakening, so is that of a tree or a fish. We're all on the same journey. At some point, we understand, it's not the here. It's the here. And this changes as I change. And we begin to listen. We begin to understand. But it takes practice. And what we figure out through our spiritual journeys and incarnations is that all of our spiritual practices, all our religions, all our beliefs, they don't work. Because they come from a place of not listening and imagining what it will be. And then we'll listen to someone who once were able to listen and maybe, understood something. And then that person will share and try to figure out where exactly was I at that moment, and then try to teach that. We all do it. We all go through it. But at some point, the need for awakening becomes too strong. And we just want to do it. We just want to do it in a way that works. We just want to learn how to actually reach higher consciousness, because we've tried everything else. The spiritual awakening process is a journey of elimination. For the most part, we go, that was not it. That didn't work. That belief certainly did not work. That was bullshit. But for each time, at least we know that something is not working. Because truth is what is left when everything else has been peeled away. And then we are ready to start peeling, to do the work for real. Not relate to stories, feelings, beliefs, but to learn how to do the work. And to become skilled and competent, both in dismantling the self, the ego, the world's evolution, but also how to actively move towards expansion, move towards truth, and let what is take over. In this work, we skip the dogma, we skip the beliefs, we skip trying to, think the right things and do the right things. You learn to explore. Because if everything you can possibly experience is life communicating with you and trying to show you how to reach your highest potential, well then, you should swim, you should engage, you should embrace life, you should be part of it, right? With everything you are. But learn how to do it in such a way that you begin to hear the voice. So this is what we do. Studying with me is quite tough for this reason, because the process is simple, and that's why it's brutal. Right? When you're confronted with all your stuff, all your karma, all your resistance, all your excuses, all your needs, all of that, and you have the opportunity to look at it and recognize that, oh, I'm just full of it. This is just, But you're still not able to do anything about it. That can be painful, but it's the first step. And then you begin building skills. You begin to understand how to get results that you can actually measure. So you don't have to relate to belief. You don't even have to relate to me telling you that you've grown, because you can see it. Irreversible, measurable results spiritually in such a way that it empowers you. So you know what you're doing, so you may explore the universes in your own way and know what you're doing and get results and have fun with it. In these times, I often talk about this, but the whole modern spirituality thing, the alternative field, have failed completely because it's a kindergarten, right? And that's fine. But it's more like when people want to explore spirituality without any authority, because in the West, one has been used to religion. But then you still don't understand how to do it. And you still don't relate to traditions that can teach you. It doesn't go well. And to me, the modern alternative field is simply organized narcissism. It's mostly, look at me, I'm spiritual. And it's trying to find shortcuts and trying to impress each other, or also convince yourself that, ooh, I've got it, I'm very spiritual. Now, when we accept that every single being in existence, we're all doing the same thing. Seeking awakening and enlightenment does not make you special, because it's the most normal thing you could possibly do. But one needs traditions. One needs practices that work. And this is what this work is. It's taking the practices from the hidden traditions and letting people with real lives take part in them. Because in the old days, yes, you would live the rest of your life in ashram. But my experience is that when you do that, it's not balanced. It's not healing. You need to be able to practice in real life. You need to be able to be in harmony with all that is, no matter what it is. Because it's easy enough in a vacuum. It's easy enough to fill yourself with love and loving intentions. When you're surrounded with loving people, no assholes, no difficult people, no challenges, right? It's much harder when you have to live a real life, which is exactly why you need to do it. All my students, no matter where they are, they have spent lifetimes trying the first approach, and it didn't work because we're still here. And it's learning that, right, mastery is about mastering every space. It's not running away from it. It's running towards it. It's being able to embrace absolutely everything with love and harmony. And no matter what it is, you bring healing. You bring expansion. You bring higher consciousness, no matter what interaction. So you move out of being triggered, you move out to a reaction, and you become the creator. It takes practice. When you look at this planet again, most religions are about, this is so terrible, it's suffering, I want to get out of here. And then trying to figure out how to do that. Most spiritual practices, the same. And often when you try to get rid of karma, or your resistance, it's basically just giving in. I often use the imagery of tuning your instrument. The purpose of tuning your instrument is playing your instrument. It's not just the tuning part. It's not just that harmony in itself that is important. It's then what happens after. It's not getting away. It's mastering being here. So the approach we have in these teachings are playing with life, exploring, for all of you to understand who you are spiritually through your life, and being in the dialogue with the divine through everything, and understand the difference between when you're mirrored in your illusions and your ego and when life is speaking. Because there's a difference. And life becomes more fun. And you grow and you heal and you start to see, right, I can get the hang of this. And you do. It's absolutely fundamental in this work that the integrity of your journey is respected. Because we're all unique. There's only one of each of us. And it means that your awakening, your unfoldment, and eventually your enlightenment is unique to you. Otherwise, it would not exist. So you have to learn to walk your path and understand what that is. And I always say you only walk the path until you realize that there is no path. There was never a journey. But you walk the path until you have that realization, right? Because each level of consciousness have different expressions and different laws of nature we relate to. By understanding your uniqueness for real, and understand that that is the divine seed, and let that blossom. It means you cannot copy, you cannot follow, you cannot submit. And in this work, If you try to submit to me, I will kick you out. If you try to follow me, I will kick you out. I will train you so you become strong and independent and competent in walking the path that the divine has already planned for you, because that is the only way to enlightenment. So when you're trying to do this work, it's because you have been copying, you have been submitting, you have been following, and you realize that, yeah, that didn't work. But then figuring out how to walk on your own, standing up, back straight, and looking God straight in the eye. It's not something you just know how to do, because your entire evolution you've been doing the opposite. Everything in you is telling you to copy, follow, submit, be saved, and whatever. But once you try to do it on your own, all of a sudden you have to learn how to walk again. You have to learn how to talk again. It's like waking up from a severe stroke and everything is gone, and you have to learn, because you only know how to do it in a world evolution. You don't know how to do it in true awakening. And this is also in the community that we're building. This is really the essence of it. Whenever you figure out something that works, well, share it. Maybe someone else can use it too, right? When someone else figures something out, they can share that. A spiritual tradition is really a collection of best practices, right? Trying to figure out what works for real. And since we're all different, we need different approaches. We need different ways of dealing with ourselves, our journey, and our karma. And here there is room for absolutely everything, because it's up to you to decide what your journey is. But you can still learn to have the discipline and the dedication, and also learn how to understand the difference between when something vibrates true and when it does not, when something actually heals you and when it doesn't. And peeling away illusions takes more than one can possibly imagine. And I'm sure all of you have this experience that, oh, you let go. When you've read the books, all you need to do is to let go. And it's still there, right? And then you let go some more. Then you go to different classes that, oh, you have to let go. Your past is the past, just let go. And it's still there, right? Another course, another book, let go, and it's still there. It's not that simple. Working with me, therefore, is extremely confrontational, the way that I will never give you something that doesn't work, because I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste mine. But then you have to practice. And then you have to kind of figure out in yourself what hits you, because that's your prerogative, that's your freedom. But it's all about what actually works, and for you to be in the driver's seat of your own awakening. And it's fun, right? Once you are able to move out of suffering, which is a very human thing. I always say that suffering is the most comical thing I know about, because it's ludicrous. Suffering is not possible in reality, because it's the story that it should have been different. And it's not possible for something to be different, because that does not exist. When something happens, it's because that happens. If something else could happen, well, that would have happened instead. So when we suffer, it's because we create the story that it should and could have been different, and it never could. What we learn is to focus on healing and potential instead. what happens is the only thing that can happen, and that is part of the journey. We may not understand, we may be in resistance. Well, that is their problem, not what happens. So we'll learn to focus on what may be, how it can heal, how it can grow, how it can expand, and how we may achieve that through spiritual practices and surrender and having fun with it. I'm all for the spiritual journey to be more fun. Humans have an addiction to suffering, which is very peculiar and very, it's very special. It's a human thing. Most other life forms do not relate to suffering the way humans do. And I've talked a lot about this, and if you study with me, I will explain it to you. But it's very specific for humans. Exploring and kind of being in the love and being in the heart and understanding that the only reason anything happens is to bring you healing. It's to bring you expansion. It's to bring you love. It's to bring you insight, bring you into higher consciousness. And humans are kicking and screaming and saying it should have been different, right? And it's that. And you learn to scream less and use your energy on the healing and bringing yourself forward. And it's fun once you get the hang of it. Until then, not so much. But, you'll figure it out. So, in this work, it starts with you. It starts with exactly kind of where you are, your exact point of evolution. And then training you, where do you go from there? And then you have to look at, where are you actually at? What is your journey? What is your uniqueness? What are the potentials that you are trying to reach in this lifetime? And how do you do it? Our society, this thing that humans call civilization, is a garbage dump. It's just an orgy of illusion and distraction and destruction. And we have to create a different starting point so we may bring something into the world. We learn to live from the inside out, not from the outside in. And this is a wonderful thing today when it comes to spiritual awakening, because whenever you use the world as a template and use the world as a starting point, you will end up hurt. You will end up in suffering. You will end up being confused and depressed and all of that. You will have to learn to start from within, from higher truth, and learn how to bring it. And in today's consciousness and this civilization, it often takes more because everyone today has been brainwashed into believing that we should listen to our senses, we should listen to our needs, we should listen to our feelings, we should like all of that, and then we should try to fix that so it's more comfortable. And in spiritual work, we just say, well, that's a waste of time. Your body is going to die, so is your mind, so are your emotions. Let's go to what actually matters. Spiritual awakening is for what you are spiritually to wake up. It's not for your human self to feel comfortable. And today, because life is becoming unbearably comfortable and thereby very painful, we're kind of like moved full circle, right? And it's drawing people back to like, we can't do this. And we can see what humans are doing to this planet, right? So spiritually, it's very healthy. And it helps spiritual awakening on an individual level. So, as we always say, if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself first. And then you have to change people, you have to inspire, you have to uplift, you have to bring healing. And then the world will change as a consequence. You cannot heal the world kicking and screaming and criticizing it and doing all of that. Again, We have to create a higher starting point. And this is also what you learn. Reaching higher levels of consciousness while being present in this world, into this world, interacting with it, including your world and the outer world as a spiritual practice. It's a lot harder than withdrawing from it. And living in an ashram and sitting in meditation. Because again, most of you have done that already. It's a lot more fun seeing, can we actually bring that state into the world and then change it? And the answer to that is yes, you can. We all can. It's part of the spiritual journey to bring it to the world and to uplift and to heal, and that being a consequence of your presence. Spiritual service only happens when you can't stop it, not when you're trying. When your consciousness and your presence are so healed and that your resistance has diminished, so the flow is just there. You can't stop it. And it affects all life around you because you're not standing in the way. Not because you decide, I want to heal, I want to change the world. It's the opposite. You've changed yourself, you've healed yourself to the level of life now being able to flow through you, and your presence will transform. Your presence will influence. So you changing and influencing the world is a side effect of your own spiritual upliftment. It's not a goal in and of itself. But this you will do. And you will learn also to have fun with it. Now, what we do in this work is we focus on mantras and crystals as like tools and glasses. Because when you study yourself, because of the mind's ability to turn anything into a story, the ego can say, aha, yeah, I know this, right? And you've experienced this. You learn something and the ego immediately turns it into something you can control, so you don't have to change anything because you already knew this, right? So, we need every spiritual principle from many different angles. We need to be slapped in the face in so many different ways. We need to be presented with the same challenges and ways to do it in so many different ways that at some point the self goes, aha, I see a crack in the wall. Right? So, working with crystals are fun because they vibrate in a specific way. And what it really does is, when you have a crystal, it will amplify certain kind of vibrations in you, because as a human body and a mind, you're basically, a field of information. And crystals will just vibrate in certain ways that in the human mind and body will amplify certain things. So it's basically, if you have glasses that have a certain tint, let's say that you have like blue, glasses, everything will seem blue. And the same thing, you can also have glasses that have a specific focus. It mean that you notice more of that than you would otherwise. So when a certain energy is amplified in you, you will then start to notice in your life everything connected to that energy. And you'll go, aha, there it is, because the brain will always use the outer world to try to pinpoint what's going on the inside. Because on the inside of the mind, everything is very abstract. Most humans have no idea what's going on in the subconscious. And that's just a small part of your consciousness. Then you have like the superconscious, which is like even more expanded. So the brain, whenever it kind of catches something, it'll say, oh, what does this remind me of? And it will try to focus on everything in the outer world that resembles that vibration of that information. And then by interacting with that manifestation, you're interacting with the same energy, the same principle, the same dissonance within. So when you then use crystals, and they will kind of tune you, your whole mindset, what's going on in your brain, your emotion, your body will slightly change. So everything connected to that kind of spectrum of information will be amplified in your brain, will naturally notice more. So when you then also receive teachings that will give you both information and principles and, practices and everything you can do, and then the crystal will then also tune you in so that even your brain is more aware of those exact principles. It's much easier to study. Otherwise, if I give you certain spiritual principles to practice, your brain will say, no, we don't need that. All right? But when your brain is affected, and it's affecting how your brain relates to the outer world and what you notice, and also what you're noticing in yourself, it's just right there in front of you. And then you'll have to find solutions. And then you say, oh, all right, this is the thing that were part of the teachings. So it's easier to then go past your own resistance, because your ego will always resist spiritual information, spiritual training, unless it benefits the ego, of course, because then it's about, being better, that whole hierarchical thing, which is, it's a natural part of being a human. But often that is then the motivation, because we think that will heal the ego. But spiritual training is about healing so that the ego can gradually melt. But working with crystals simply means that you will have a natural focus and attention to the teachings. It's easier to practice because it will be right there, and it will be affecting you, and your brain will subconsciously be working on this. And for most students, what also happens is especially the week before I introduce a new crystal, a lot of students, they can feel it. They can feel it like they're being tuned. And the sport is, once you get into it, what is this, right? Because a lot of the students are noticing the principles of what life is kind of like. It's shifting the lens. And then different things will be amplified, and then the previous stone will start to, it will be neutralized. So often then when we physically introduce the stone, most students are already tuned in. That's part of the fun. And most students will then recognize the teachings from what's been beginning to manifest in their lives over the last kind of few days before the introduction. So that's also fun. That's also something one can use to realize that, oh, right, this is real. I'm actually studying. I'm actually, getting a grip on this, and that's fun. But each stone will represent different principles, different angles, different practices, different lenses, so you may explore yourself. Because remember that your brain relies heavily on your habits, your experiences, and your repeated experiences, your repeated definitions. So everything is the same. And it will insist that that is the right and true one. Your brain believes that your very, very subjective version of life is the objective one, right? So it's stuck. And this is the wonderful thing. Working with crystals is that, it kind of breaks that up a little bit and enables you to observe yourself being less blocked by your own habits and definitions. So you will be able then to have experiences that you wouldn't normally allow yourself. because the brain is very much a follower of its own religion. Your brain is a local religion. It's an assembly of definitions and beliefs, and it spends the rest of its life to confirm those beliefs. So with crystals, it's kind of forced into a different modality, ever so slightly. So you can see yourself, experience life, explore, being less limited by your own programs, right? And that's also why it's so valuable. And then you get a new one, and then you get to stand in a different place to see yourself, and then often you will see things you wouldn't otherwise see, right? When we're full of it, we're normally the last to know, right? Because we don't see it. Everybody else, you know, your entire family, all their friends, they all know, you don't. It's that, when it comes to our suffering, our patterns, how we block ourselves, how we feel, oh, I want to grow, and then we do the opposite. We don't see it because the brain, whenever it has established a kind of foundational set of definitions, it will begin to see confirmation. The rest of it will be filtered out. So it's not that easy. But with crystals, you get the help in tuning yourself, becoming slightly different, more cracks in the wall, more positive doubt in your brain when it comes to your own patterns. So you may explore more. And when we combine that with a culture and what we're trying to inspire people to do, like jump, do stuff, you know, break all the rules because the rules are made up anyway, and just like try to figure things out, you can allow yourself to experience a lot more of what life actually is, a lot more of what you are, so you may then enhance and kind of develop your definitions and your maps a lot faster. So this is why we work with crystals, because each month you get a new angle. You get something else to focus on, and it really accelerates growth in a way that is very difficult to do without it, especially when we're also living in the real world. Right? And when life is a series of distractions, a series of you being triggered, right? And today it's constant, right? We're exposed to as much information in one day as people a few hundred years ago may have received their whole life, right? So we're easily drawn into that. We are confused. We lose track of who we are. We lose track of our own path, right? So also, working with crystals can assist you physically in snapping out of that and beginning to have a more healthy focus, and it will continue just to assist you. Now, the crystal we work with, they are aligned, and alignment is important to understand because it changes everything. Now, most crystals are dead. They're life forms. They're just like very slow-growing plants. They are alive until they're not, just like all life, right? So, just like plants, they can die due to old age or poisoning or, you know, things happen. And most crystals today, they are dead. It's got a lot to do with both what humans are doing to this planet, but the overall karmic process. And the easy way to think of this is to think of crystals as leaves on a tree. The leaf is only alive for as long as it's part of the tree. The moment it's detached, it will die. And there are huge kind of bodies of different minerals and different crystals that can carry the vibration of what that particular stone or crystal represent. And then there will be other deposits that will be connected so they kind of resonate and become like a hum, right, on the planet. There will also be a lot of them that will be compromised and they will die in different ways. And today, Crystals are dying all over the place. And most crystals we can buy, they're not connected to the tree anymore. So what we do, number one, we work with only crystals that are still on the tree. They're not connected. And then we also work with the alignment, meaning that we are reinforcing that connection. So that's the first part. And then number two, we connect it to you. This is also why when we are aligning the crystals, most students can feel it physically. Because when we align them, meaning that they are then structurally changed. This may sound very strange to you if you're not into it, if you haven't had any personal experience with it. But they will then be connected to your spectrum, basically your DNA, what you're vibrating. And in that process, normally the stones will change in appearance. And even during the study, for instance, we have now been working with one stone that for most of the students, they can see the stone changing. It changes colors and appearance and patterns in one day. This is possible when they are aligned, when they are alive, pulsating, living beings. And normally when a stone can't change, well, ask the students, did their stones change? Yes, they did. And this is normal. So when we align them, they will not only be more dynamic, but also when they are then connected to you specifically, they will only be channeling for you. So you will then be also connected to that leaf of that tree. This is why you get an enormous amount of help and why it can affect you this much. And also it's fun, right? Nature is supposed to be one organism that always heals and expands. It's just that humans right now have completely forgotten, and they are exploiting and killing everything. And they feel more and more disconnected as they do. Because whatever they're trying to achieve, it's not working. But nature is abundant. It wants to heal. It wants to help. And it's also a natural part of a stone. And these huge bodies of vibration to also try to heal humans. It's also how they can stay alive, right? So it's just a kind of natural process. And also connected to each stone is what we often refer to as a guardian. Now, a guardian is simply a being, a individual of consciousness, also working with that particular stone. And the easy way to explain this is if you want to learn how to play the piano, you will go to a piano teacher, right? For everything piano, you will go to that teacher. If you want to study carpentry, you will go to someone else, right? It doesn't mean that it's all they do, right? It's not like they've grown into the piano, right? But it's their thing. Right? And the guardians are individuals who operate like through these stones, representing the principles and the vibration and the spectrum that these stones and crystals then represent. So through them, and being part of this kind of aligned energy, the full consciousness of that being, also being an individual, will be available. Remember that everything is consciousness. Everything is aware. Humans have created this very strange idea that humans are aware, the rest is not. Everything is consciousness. Everything is expression of consciousness. So everything from a particle and up, it's all awareness, but in different levels of consciousness, different levels of expression. So, just like you may express yourself in different ways, so may other beings. And remember that there is life absolutely everywhere. I just think of the visible universe, and that keeps expanding too as science moves forwards. But right now, they're calculating that there are several trillion galaxies, and that in itself is mind-boggling. Several trillion galaxies, each containing trillions of planets. And the building blocks of life is extremely common. So most likely there is life trillions and trillions of places. That's just in this one universe. And then there are infinite dimensions also with life. Life is common because that is what exists. The rest are simply ways to express life. So it's everywhere. Different levels of consciousness, different types of evolution, all of it is one organism. And of course, they're also available here. It's not special, it's just how life works. So, studying here also means that you gradually get to understand more of that and how to interact with it. And even interact with different beings on this planet. Let's start with humans, right? Because that can be difficult too, but it's, learning how to be a healing presence for other people can be difficult, but you need to learn that and for all other life forms that you can see, and then you can also start with what to your senses belong to the invisible realms. But it's all real. It's all life. All the same intention. And as you grow spiritually, how you grow, how you heal, how you expand is by bringing that to others. So at some point, you can only grow when you make others grow. You can only heal when you make others heal. And that becomes natural. When you understand that humans are not very advanced, most life forms operate that way. And when one looks at the state of the collective human, what humans are doing to this planet, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of beings and life forms and levels of consciousness that truly wants to assist and help. But humans are not listening. They're not paying attention, and they keep doing what they're doing and destroying themselves and everybody else. And it's completely unnecessary. So understand that in this work we relate to those. It's not magical. It's not mythical. It's learning to work with nature, but also understand more about what nature is. It's normal. And this is why, often when we talk about spirituality, I say that I don't really like the term spiritual. And I often say this because somehow it implies that there is something that is not. Right? This is spiritual and that is not. It's just what is. And part of then spiritual awakening is understanding that everything is that. All life is the same. Everything is oneness. Everything is love. Everything else is simply misunderstandings. And we can grow out of them. When you're attracted to this work, it's because you already know this, but you don't know how to do it. Right? Just look at one thing. And this is also why, because the question is, well, why do we need to study anyway? Because it's so simple. When we look at love, for instance, right? Because often when we talk about spiritual principles and spiritual work, it boils down to love. Understanding that love is truth. Love is the healer. Love is what we truly are. Well then, why can't I just do that? I say, good luck. Have you ever tried? Right? How many seconds did it last? right? Because even though we may know something and understand, we have all this resistance, we have all this karma, we have all these imbalances. So even when we may think we understand something, understand a principle, or even how something works, we're not able to do it. And it's only when something is natural behavior in a way that you don't even have to think about it, then it's your level of consciousness. So learning how to love for real, once you start trying, once you start practicing, you find, oh, this is difficult. And yet, in essence, it's very simple. And this is what annoys people most about studying with me, is that everything I teach is like, duh, and yet try to practice it, I dare you. It's that. When you talk to students, it's that. Because you can grasp what I teach, and then still, right? But this is what life then will show you, is like, yeah, there are certain discrepancies here and there. So when you focus on a specific practice, right, and a focus in 1 month, life will then show you where you need to change, where you need to adapt, where you need to grow out of your own stuff. Because that's your karma, that's your resistance, right? So instead of suffering, we need to have a sense of humor about it. This is what it is. Spiritual awakening is not just, ooh, more light, more healing. It's you being confronted with what stands in the way. So, and this is the thing with spiritual studies, is like when you study love, you will be studying every possible way you are blocking it. And this is the thing that people often say to me that also causes so much frustration. Well, couldn't we just like bathe in love and then, why can't you just do that? And then I would get it. I said, well, you're supposed to be a generator. If a generator is not generating, adding electricity will not help. There will be electricity. Ooh, look, there's electricity from the generator. But it's not generating it. And that's the thing, for each level of consciousness, you will be generating love. You will be generating truth. You will be generating presence, which is the opposite of submission and following and copying. It is you. And it's that. And because there is not a shortage of love in the universe, it's you blocking it. You have to figure out how you're blocking it. And this is why seeking truth in and of itself is a waste of time. Because that's not the problem, it's your capacity. It's like, you have the access to the ocean and you're a teaspoon. You need to be a little bigger than a teaspoon. It's that. Because no matter, how you investigate, and this is the thing when it comes to the self, even if you expand and you're a tiny little cup, right? And when you go down to the ocean, you fill your cup, and you look what's inside. You say, ooh, this is the ocean. I know what the ocean is now. No, you don't. What is in the ocean, what lives in the ocean, could not possibly fit into your cup. The tens of thousands of different life forms, and they don't fit into your cup. And this is what we do when we try to fit truth into the self and us as individuals. We can look at it, ooh, I'm filled with it. And then we think we understand. But we can only truly understand once we become part of the ocean. So we can experience everything. And that is what enlightenment is. That's what true awakening is. It's that process. Instead of trying to fill your cup, you learn how to swim. That's the beginning. Right? And this is part of the practices here. That we go from trying to fill our cup into swimming in the ocean, relating to life as it is, and begin to experience more fully, so we may transform and grow past our beliefs and our habits and what we've learned so far. And it's a lot more interesting. But it also means, of course, that your ego will get a beating and then some. In many ways. And again, just talk with students here. They will tell you, but it's what it takes. Your desire for truth must be greater than the desire for the self. And you may think, oh, that's easy. I dare you. Right? But this also, once you want to learn how to do it for real, you understand there are no such thing as a quick fix. Whenever you think you understand something, yeah, it's just the beginning. You will never be done, because that's not the point. But you will begin to enjoy the process. You'll begin to enjoy your own growth and discovering more and becoming more, letting go of more for real and healing. Then also seeing that gradually your presence will have a healing impact, not because you're trying, but because it's natural behavior. It's measurable. So, working with crystals, it changes everything. You will grow a lot faster because you will be kind of shaken out of your normal patterns and into new ones. So you may experience yourself in a different way and experience different angles. And often, when we're dealing with our own karma, we've already seen it for millions of years, right? And just think of how it is at home, right? Sometimes you're looking for your keys or something and you're looking straight at it and you can't see it because you're so used to it that they're being, We've all had this experience looking for something and it's right there and we can't see it. Well, this is the challenge with our own karma, because it's been there for such a long time and we can't see it. Right? So then kind of like shaking up how your mind works and then combining that with dedication and exploration, you get so much more out of it. So how we do it is you get like one stone or crystal each month. And first we have a teaching where I lay out the kind of main principles. And you will notice that if you go to a crystal book, you will notice, oh, that's not really something I can use because it's not the true information. It's not very advanced. It's not on that level at all, okay? It's basically like studying medicine through a Woman's Weekly, right? It's not on that level. So, but you can see the traces. You can also see that in a Woman's Weekly. It has traces of medicine. But it's mostly about the handsome doctor. So, but it's still, what we then do is like go into the real information, and you can see, when you look at the general information about that stone and crystal, you can see, right. You can see kind of what it was and how it's been kind of watered out, and that's also interesting. But you will get something to work on, okay? And then you practice both by yourself and with other students, and to go deeper, and you have to learn to work quickly. That is one thing, because the thing is, often when people come to me in the beginning, they say like, I want to grow faster, right? That is the most common thing, is that we feel I'm not growing fast enough. I said, well, welcome, fasten your seatbelt and hold on to your hat. Because when you start with me, it's like you still have to do it. It's like you cannot be a passenger looking out the side windows like, ooh, this is going fast. You have to learn how to run, bitch. You have to learn how to transform faster, work faster, really do the work, and to not waste your own time. And when you get up to speed, you get used to it. And then there's a new stone, right? Because for you to learn to transform faster is important. Life moves fast. Think of the natural speed in this dimension is the speed of light. Unless you're moving at the speed of light, you're too slow. That is the speed of kind of energy without resistance. And the simple way to explain matter, and in the world of physics, they are beginning to understand this, that what you see, what matter is simply you observing that light through the lenses of your own resistance. And that will make it appear like this. So matter does not exist. And when you look at the basic kind of particles that make up matter, one knows that the light that becomes that matter is still moving at the speed of light. So it's not the same light. It's not like you take light and that light then becomes matter. It's the observation of that light. So physics, they're moving in that direction. In spiritual work, this is obvious because we can see it. But in the world of physics, they need to test it, and now they're beginning to be able to test it. But matter is an illusion coming from your mind being so slow in its beliefs, patterns, and vibration that it appears as it's not moving. That is your resistance, moving at a very slow speed. But it's still you observing the light moving at the speed of light. So, there's room for improvement. And this is also what happens when you begin to open up and when you begin to advance and lift your consciousness. You will start to vibrate faster and higher. And you can then begin to see and relate to the fact that matter is not real. All my students, they get to that point where you can begin to see through it. Because behind it is light, because that is really what is there. So when there is less resistance, gradually it becomes translucent and you can see behind it. And that will then accelerate your own kind of dismantling of this level of illusion. And then it begins, it's all me. This is what I project. And then you start, working on your karma even faster. So, people want to speed up their growth. And then working on your karma more quickly, transforming more quickly, healing more quickly, being able to let go more quickly and do that work and learn how to move faster. So studying with me is not only that, like going through different things fast, it's learning how to grow more quickly. I often say when someone leaves a lifetime and their lifetime is then being examined and they're part of it, what mattered may be down to moments. And people, like individuals, when they're out of this world, they may be sometimes surprised. Because almost everything you do as a human is repetition. It comes from patterns. It's part of your karma. It's part of your resistance. It's trying to hold on to your resistance and pushing away everything that may represent truth. And then you have moments. And you have moments where you're more open. Your moments where things can land in you. And you can see past it. But for the most part, it's more of the same. It takes an enormous amount of dedication. It takes an enormous amount of actual work to speed up. So we are moving forward at an uncomfortable pace so that you may also move past your own comfort and move into a flow and a speed that is more natural for you as a spiritual being, not as a human. But you have to do the work, right? So, and that is what will make it grow faster. It's not replacing your beliefs faster, right? It's learning how to do it. So you will build muscles, you will build competence and skills, and you will feel after a while that, yeah, you are moving fast forward and you're getting the hang of it. So that is also a part of studying with me, like everything will move faster and a lot faster. So you need to be prepared for that. You will not study with me and say, well, I want to do this, in a comfortable way. You can say it, but it will not happen because you've already done that. If you want results, if you want to get something out of this lifetime spiritually, you cannot just continue to do things in a human way. So you have to train. But, part of building a community that we're really doing now is for everyone to have a support system and to, share best practices and to have someone who can listen when you think it's a little bit too much or whatever it is. And so you can help each other. And then you build strength, right? Both individually, but also collectively. And it's just amazing. So you do get results. If you have any questions, I always say all questions are stupid, and they should be, right? Questions where you try to show, yeah, you're so smart, that's worthless. Try to ask the questions you actually want to ask. Often the most stupid questions are the smartest ones, right? Because often we think, oh, that's too simple. It's never too simple. Often it's more straight to the point. Remember that in this work, it's all about you and your realizations and your path and you figuring things out. And this being a place where you can study, where you can learn, and also how to apply what you learn. So if you have any questions about this study or anything in general, just ask. I will answer everything always. That's also part of studying with me. You are definitely allowed to ask absolutely any question, and I will also answer them. Because, often that's also the thing. When it comes to spirituality, we may think that, am I doing it right, this or that? Or we may doubt ourselves, or it may be kind of difficult to right? So ask all the dumb questions, because that will make you smarter. Asking smart questions will make you dumb, right? So it's just like, we're all here to study how to do it for real, not to be pretentious, not to pose. Just learning how do we do this for real in the real world as people? How can we include the human journey in the spiritual one? How can we be honest about what this actually takes without dogma and beliefs and all of that, but just like how, right? So this is, for the most part, from where people are asking questions. I always say that it's never a matter of how far you've come. It's always about your level of honesty, like exactly where you are, because you have to move from that exact point. You can't move from a point where you're not present, right? And the more we dedicate ourselves to honesty, we gradually begin to understand exactly where we are. And we say, that's fine. That's just a fact, right? And then we may move forward from that point. But for as long as we are in denial of where we are, we can't really grow, right? So here, there is no competition, no hierarchy. Again, sometimes people have that in them. People can come to me and also have religious patterns or like cultish behavior, all of that, that's fine, but you will grow out of it. So, of course, you'll meet students that will also try to pose because they may feel insecure. They may not trust themselves, to be honest. That's fine. But as a culture, we're really trying to nurture that everyone can just relax and throw the masks and the games, and for everyone to feel kind of safe and in a way comfortable exploring what is and who we truly are and figure it out. And this is something I think that most students figure out after a while, is that we can just be who we are, and then be our understanding of who we are, and then work from there, right? Because everything else is a lie, right? So please feel free and comfortable, and ask any questions.
We have a couple of questions on YouTube already. You speak of healing. Healing from what exactly? From human stuff, or from previous lives, or from something else? If body and mind will be gone, why is healing even important, and what shall we heal?
Right. Now, everything between your exact point of evolution and consciousness and enlightenment is a journey of healing, because you may ask the question, why are we not already enlightened? And it's that. It's understanding that, as I say, like, it's not that there is something wrong. It's simply that you have misunderstandings. You have all of that in you, but you haven't figured out how to tune it. It's like if you think of a new instrument, a new piano, right? It will have all these strings, but they all need to be tuned first. Your whole evolution is about tuning all of those strings, so then the divine music may express itself through you as the instrument. Your whole evolution is about that. And that tuning is what we often refer to as healing, because healing means making whole, right? So it's just that movement from illusion, and often, as in the stories of hurt and also suffering, right? So when we use the word healing, it's more that we can relate to the pain of all our own kind of dissonance, and that the only way to heal is to move into what is true. And we have a lot of strings, right? So there are so many principles and aspects of consciousness and who we are and our uniqueness. And that takes time, but it's really a healing journey and a tuning journey. Like, sometimes it's difficult to find words because human languages are really not meant for true spiritual work. So try to look at the process more than the word. But I use the word healing because people also experience the pain of their own imbalances, the pain of their own illusions. And we feel and experience ourselves as being healed once we are in harmony with life. But the journey is longer than one would think. It's not just, the human part. That's just a tiny, tiny bit. It's an enormous journey of evolution.
Here we have Ingsul on Zoom here. Let's see. Ingsul, yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello. Should I take on my video camera as well?
Nope, that just voice is fine. Thank you.
Okay. It is so nice to be here, and it's very inspiring. I resonate with a lot of things that you are saying from my practice of self-inquiry. What I am curious about is you were talking about those hidden traditions. I just want to know more about where your teachings are coming from, because all cultures have their own hidden traditions that they are passed down from very ancient times. And so could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. Understand that this planet is very small. There's life everywhere. So when you talk about these traditions, forget this planet. And then you will begin to get a more correct image. Now, truth is truth, no matter where it is. And the thing is, often when it comes to traditions and religions and paths, they become not just colored by, but also tainted by their culture. Until there is mostly culture and then just a faint memory of truth. That is the human way. So often on this planet, one may have had a starting point of truth and purity, but the human way is that doesn't last very long. So ultimately, for something to be preserved, they're not available to people. But they're never from here. This is a planet, out there in the, not very centrally located. And it's a planet that can only barely support a little bit of life on its surface, a very small part of its time. So humans are not that important. Whatever's going on this planet, it's a particle in the universe. So, at a certain point, traditions become one. When you peel away culture, right? When you're not limited by life form or planet, you will find that spiritual teachings are pretty much the same. This is also why, even on this planet, when you look at traditions and religions and you kind of take away everything, you can see that they have many of the same principles, many of the same, attempts at approaching truth, because it's one reality, right? It's just one truth. It's one being. It's one consciousness. And everyone will, again, try to figure it out their own way, and then they get lost in their own culture and their own way of doing things. So, these teachings are not part of, first of all, the human traditions. And this is more trying to kind of introduce a way of working with, one could say, more of the kind of the original content of traditions, and seeing that humans have come a long way. And the old traditions, for the most part, don't work anymore. Religions don't work anymore, which is good. And many people still need them. But for people who actually want to wake up for real, many of you have already been in those traditions and religions and all that, and you're done. And you therefore have the foundation to figure out how to walk yourself, how to be in the ambition of mastery and not wanting something to believe in or follow. So what we're doing with these teachings in this kind of platform is emphasizing everything on you. your journey and the realization that you are in a holy communication with the divine, and you don't need anyone in between. That does not mean that you know how to do it. So I train you. And that is what we do. So, as I say, like, and you also see this in human religions and traditions. Once students get to a certain level, if you gathered them all in one room, they would begin to express the same level of understanding, right? Because you figure out the same thing. Once you know, like, for instance, when you go to a foreign country, like in each country, they have their, maps, the tourist maps of where to go, right? And you will start, if you're German and you go to a foreign country, like, where to find the German restaurants and the German bars, and the same thing in this kind of so one will have different versions of the tourist maps that will not be completely accurate, right? Because you will carry your own culture and your own thing and your own understanding, and they will think, this country is weird. At some point, you'll get past that. And it's the same thing spiritually, that at some point you will have shed so much that you're seeing what others are seeing, no matter the life form, dimension, or planet, whatever it is. And you can relate to the process of awakening the same way. This is where it's coming from. This is what we're doing. So this is a practice and a path for those who are done with paths, who can connect to the true process of awakening, no matter where it's happening or what it is. And I always try to encourage students to look at both religions, teachings, and teachers, and try to connect with what they're actually teaching and peel away the rest, right? Because you will find people everywhere that has done the work, that has used that particular path as a way to cleanse and to grow and figure things out. You can find that even in religions. And it's important to acknowledge that it is the process, the journey of awakening, that is important, not how you do it. There is truth absolutely everywhere, because truth is what is. So no matter what you do, you will peel it away. And I say, at a certain point, you will recognize that in others. And for the most part, when it comes to true spiritual work, this is what you find everywhere, in all dimensions, all places, and one will work together. So this work is also part of that. But you will also see traces of what we're doing here in established traditions on this planet. That is natural, but it's not really important, because it's still about you. And for those of you who are ready to take the wheel and to gradually get a grasp and grip on your own awakening, move into service. And this is, as I said, this is the path, no matter where you come from. At one point it turns to service. At one point you understand, it's not about me. It's not about my beliefs, where I'm coming from, this or that. It's about giving back to life. So all paths lead to the same path, eventually. And that is what we teach. This is what you study. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It's understanding that, like with spiritual maturity, everyone gradually grows into the same. And it's wonderful. And it also means that over time you will have a greater appreciation for each path, each tradition, each teacher, each religion, because you can see that, oh, they're all necessary because they resonate with different people, different levels of consciousness. But you can also see that they lead to a path that is defined by divine service, by going past the individual level. And then the studies are different. So that is what we're doing. And even in religions, the path to service, or the path of service, to most people in a religion is hidden because they can't see it. You get it when you get it.
We have another question on YouTube. So, moving faster according to consciousness might feel uncomfortable as it is too fast for my human self. Is that correct? And if so, then how can we train to keep up with that pace and intensity?
Right. Now, yes, it is too fast for the human self. The point is to train the human and the brain and the self to understand that I'm not in control, I can't do this. Because every time the human self believes, I can do this, it will control it, corrupt it, and turn it into something and put it in his pocket. So the self always needs to be a little bit overwhelmed to know that I'm not in control. So you stretch. And then you learn to surrender. You learn to go past the self into a level of consciousness, into a state that is you, not the self, you. And when you're able to be there, it's moving even faster, but it's standing still at the same time. Because then it's closer to who you actually are. So it is important to always make the self feel that it can't, control this. It can't completely get it. To inspire you to go past it, go past it, go past it. So that's why, and it works.
All right, and the last question on YouTube before we take one here in the audience, how do we handle our dedication to live what is versus having goals and creating our lives?
Well, when you set a goal, understand that that will always be part of your karma. Now, you will only be drawn to what is outside of you that you in your ego assume will balance you in some way. I always say that all ambition comes from pain, comes from suffering. So just the cliche version is if you're told that you're nothing as a child, you want to show them. So that will then be, your ambition. And you think that once I achieve, I will show them all and then that will be healed. That's often the assumption. So in different ways, all our needs are a compensation of lack. Just like when you're hungry, it's a lack of nutrients, and then you want to seek it, right? So as a life form, all ambition, all needs, all wants starts with, oh, I don't have this, right? I lack water, so I'm thirsty. And then it becomes, oh, I don't feel well, so I need support, right? So it becomes emotional, it expands, but it's the same thing. So whatever you do in the world comes from a sense of lack, the story of lack. So what we do in the world is then trying to achieve that, and that's fine. But in that journey to kind of get that thing, we often have to change. We have to do things differently because there is a reason why we don't have it already. So we learn and we become better. Even for instance, if you want to hunt for food, you do it many enough times, you get better at it, and then you grow. Right? So horizontally, as we call it, all our needs will still prompt us to try to get better, because this is how we can control our access to what we think we need in life, and that will also make us grow spiritually until we can do it directly and we realize that, oh, there's nothing I need to seek in the world because it's all there. But then we've already kind of learned to kind of seek it, and we set different goals, but we relate to the outer life the same way. So we can set goals in life, but instead of just like satisfying a need or a lack, we can say, oh, I really want to express this. I want to share love. I want to experience something that may be wonderful. So we move from that kind of need, and if I don't get this, then my life is ruined type of thing, and say, ooh, this is something interesting. I haven't done that before. You know, what will happen if I do that? And seeing also what we want to explore in ourselves. Different talents, different things, which is much more connected to the spiritual exploration. So gradually, as we grow, our goals are more focused on expression, creativity, exploration, than it is to satisfy needs. We should also satisfy needs, but we just keep building, right? And over time then, our goals will be to give back. We'll feel when we do something, we simply say, oh, this is a form, this is something I can manifest. But the point is to influence the world. It's to be a vehicle of service. It's to be a vehicle of healing and spiritual growth, and to affect people's life in such a way that, you know, their internal growth is nurtured, right? So we still set goals, but as you grow, your understanding of what goals may be and where they're coming from, they will grow as well.
Hi, could you say a little bit about the mantra course as well, and maybe how it differs and is similar to the crystal course, and maybe how they work together if you do both?
Yeah, sure. Mantras are, like most of you probably know about mantras. It's the same thing. These mantras we work with, for the most part, are not well-known mantras. Also because many of the mantras that are well-known are already corrupted. Because once you have a vibration in a mantra and people use it, their beliefs about what this is and how they use it will then become part of the collective mind around that mantra. So when you sing the mantra, you will not only experience the vibration of the mantra, you will also experience what it is connected to, right? So when we want to cut through all of that and work in a different way. And also remember that many of my students, like most of them, they are used to incarnating in many places. And many of you guys, you have come directly from other planets and this or that. It's normal. But it also means that the traditional, more kind of human mantras will not necessarily trigger that in you, because many have very concrete memories of other life forms, other types of consciousness, because remember, most life forms do not operate like humans. So different structure, different type of consciousness, different journeys. And that is also part of the skill set that you then incarnate with. So many of these mantras are therefore more kind of complex and non-human, to also stimulate a lot of that, right? So you don't just focus on your human journey, it's more like everything else and how to funnel that into the human journey. So you can be more who you are, but also in the human form. So the purpose of these mantras are therefore also different. It's to accelerate spiritual growth based on both the consciousness on the planet right now, but also where humans are in their spiritual journey right now. And a lot of humans have never been human before, right? It's fun. and it's confusing. A lot of individuals feel being human is so confusing because they haven't been it before. Because now, for the human life form in this planet to survive, it's important that as many kind of souls as possible that have had lifetimes in cultures that are already past this point, right? When they incarnate, they're kind of bringing with them the cookie crumbs of how to get there. So there are millions upon millions of souls incarnating, bringing with them those memories and energy, and they just know how to do it, but they don't necessarily know it as a human, right? So we work with mantras that expand you a lot, and not necessarily focus too much on the kind of the local culture of this planet, but more on the universe and to connect to both different conscious life forms, cultures, because this planet is also part of a family of life forms and cultures, and the human life form has been, since the very beginning, seeded and developed as part of that greater family. So many of you have also incarnated on those planets. So these mantras are also kind of expanding the very foundation and definition of what it means to be human. So you can remember more and bring in more and also have more fun with being in this ape, right? And not be limited by it, because first of all, it has a lot of potential. But it's more fun when you do not let yourself be limited by this life form, but see it as a great opportunity to explore, and explore also through this life form, but also remember who the driver is, right? So these mantras are therefore not part of the human traditions, but there are still some of the more kind of hidden traditions on this planet that have been using some of these mantras. So we have a lot of fun with it, but it also gives you, just like with the crystals, different ways to change the modality of consciousness and allow you to experience yourself and your reality in ways that are not as constricted or limited, right? Because now on this planet, it's time to open everything up, to stop pretending that we are this. We're all visitors, right? And hopefully, many of you experience yourself that way and you have memories of it. But it's still about, how do I do this in this human form? And you get results. When you study with me over time, you begin to get it. And you're able to then be part of what's happening on the planet without being consumed by it. And you can then also, again, bring healing and upliftment and being in alignment and kind of knowing what you're doing. So we choose mantras and crystals to be kind of in harmony. So basically, we have a spiral of teachings that keep going. And then we have mantra and crystal that can work in different ways. As a crystal more will kind of work on you and your sense of reality and carry a lot of kind of the main teachings. A mantra will carry specific kind of principles, and when you use a mantra, it will tune you in, and you will become that mantra. And they work together, so they're quite fun. So you have as much kind of like texture in your consciousness as possible, making things more concrete. So instead of just like, oh, there's something there, you begin to understand what it is and how to interact with it and how to also be creative and have fun with it. So you may transform faster, meaning you become who you truly are faster, peeling away what you are not, peeling away from the world what is not. So it's not for you to become someone else. It's for you to stop pretending that you're somebody else and take away the costume so you may experience yourself as who you truly are and live as that also in the human form on this planet.
We have a question on Zoom. You say we should try to have a higher starting point than our thoughts and feelings. If you are a person with some psychological issues, intense feelings or stubborn patterns or something, which from my perspective sounds like all of us, how can you then move past this and work through this and move into higher vibration without just suppressing all that stuff?
By healing. Suppression never works. Now, I often use the term resistance when I talk about karma. And if you think of resistance also as a term used in physics, right? Resistance is what stops, what blocks. If you look at an electrical cord, for instance, right? The resistance in it will determine how much electricity can flow through. And if there's too much, it will melt, right? And you have that until you have super leaders with absolutely no resistance, and you can then have as much power going through as you want. And it's that. So it's looking at everything in us, both in physical manifestation, in our emotions, mind, psychology, whatever it is, and understand what is blocking the flow. And then learn how to restore, how to heal, how to understand, and then practice, and then gradually see it dissolving and experience more flow in that point. So it's not just about, now I have decided that I will not let myself be stopped. It's the actual process of letting resistance, karma, like karmic manifestations, dissolve for real. And it will be replaced by pure consciousness, pure isness, and pure flow. When you can see it, you can experience it. It's not as simple as, oh, when you have that, just do that and it's gone. This is why it takes everything to learn. Because if you actually want higher level consciousness, everything can be healed. Everything can be restored. Everything can be transformed, but you have to study how to do it. You have to practice and practice again and practice again, and then there is the next thing. Because every single manifestation is a matrix in and of itself, containing many different parts. And often we have to study each part individually and dismantle each part individually and heal each part individually. But you get the hang of it and you gradually develop your skills and you understand how to do it. And this is the beauty of these studies, that you get everything you need. You get all the practices you need. You get all the information you could possibly need, and then some. And then some. Information is not a scarcity issue in these studies. It's more about how much can you chew. And it's that, but it's then still for you to actively use it. And that is for most students the biggest challenge. It's not necessarily information or the practice, it's actually doing it. So that may take time too. So it's showing oneself both kindness and patience, and at the same time not be too kind or patient. It's finding that balance. But when it comes to spiritual awakening, the reality is that everything will heal. May not go as fast as you want, but the only blockage is how much dedication, how much work you are putting in. But over time, everything will heal.
Yeah. You were talking about speed, and in relation to that, what are efficient triggers to remind yourself when you have this flow to activate yourself to perform beyond human ability, like on a daily basis, even if it's small tasks?
Now, it's an excellent question. And as I said, it's only when something is natural behavior that is actually true. So, it is through daily spiritual practices. That's where we all start. I always advise people to meditate every morning for as long as possible, because that is basically like the violinist, tuning his instrument before playing. It's a little stupid to first play the concert and then tuning the instrument, inflicting pain and agony on everyone in the audience, right? Which is what humans do. So it's then learning to tune yourself in the morning. Over time, that will carry into the day. Because it's really a matter of staying in the highest consciousness you can possibly achieve for as long as possible. And then life is distraction and bullshit, and but over time, when you have rigorous practice and you are dedicated, it will last longer. And then over time, in these studies, you learn how to relate to life as a continuous spiritual practice. Because you begin not only, listening to the divine conversation, but you can see it. You begin to take active part in it. And over time, you never leave the state of meditation. So it's not really about just reminding yourself once you're kind of down there in the human consciousness. It's trying to not go there to start with. And you need to build muscle. You need to build strength. And because the human mind is what it is, spiritual practice, and many different spiritual practices. So when you study with me, you get a lot of them. That's also, in 1 month, you may be asked to do 10 different practices on top of your meditation. And it's that, and the next month, but it's what it takes. And what happens to everyone is that over time, there is an awareness growing that you feel that, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on. So that the human state begins to expand and start turning into something else. But often what humans do is that they almost do it. Right? Once you feel good enough, meaning that it's less painful, then that's good enough, and then you stop. So you don't quite get there, because humans always stop once the suffering is gone. The relief of not suffering is an illusion, because then you do it from the human. You don't do it from soul, right? So it's also seeing that, getting past suffering so that it's wonderful and bliss and comfort. That is not the goal. It's an indication that, sure, now you're beginning. But the ego is happy with that. So it's then saying, well, that simply means that I'm on the right track, and now I need to amp up my practices so I can actually penetrate this thing, right? And that is really the key, to not be satisfied by the ego being impressed by itself. Right? It happens to everyone. But it's a common thing that humans almost get there and then they stop. And then life sucks again, and then you almost get there, and then, So it's that. And also over time, when you have discipline, when you study for real, gradually you change. Your spiritual ambition change, your goals change, and you become your spiritual practices. It will be internalized. You know too much to believe in your own illusions. You see through the world because you have practiced and you have studied, and it's irreversible. And this happens to all students. Gradually, they know too much, not just in the back of their head. They know it in the forefront. They see life through that lens, and they never forget. So that is kind of where you get when you practice and study for real. These transformations happen. And the goal is that they should be irreversible triggering natural behavior beyond the human spectrum, and that happens.
All right, we've got Rick online.
So, one of the hardest things about being a human being on Earth right now is trying to kind of find and keep sight of optimism, seeing through all the stuff that's going on right now. Could you comment on how these studies are, why they're important, and how they can help us to stay in that state of optimism?
Well, you said it yourself. It's so easy right now with everything happening that one can be sidetracked, right? As I said, when something happens, it's because it has to. There is nothing wrong with anything happening right now. It's just the level of consciousness among humans. It's the karma, and it's how it's being worked out. It's a rendering. It's not real. It's, humans just working out their karma. And, as I've said before, this is what spiritual upliftment looks like. It's basically then for the next level to begin to vibrate. And the dissonance, right, becoming more visible. And then everybody attacks the mirror. But that is necessary so that this world and this life form may move past this current level. Because the current level of consciousness and the current behavior among humans will lead to the complete annihilation of this life form and this planet. And that's not necessary. So they have to work out their karma. And say, that's just how it is. So what's happening on the planet right now, that is healing. It may not look like it, but one has to work out resistance. And that always starts with humans attacking the mirror. So that will intensify until humans figure out a better way to do things. It's completely natural, and it's important to love it. If you feel that, well, I wouldn't do it, well, good for you. It means you've done it already. Doesn't mean that, no, I'm so like, it's because you've already done it. And you realize that that's not the way. Guess how you figure that out, right? So we always need to allow each level of evolution to go through what we've gone through. And now on this planet, this is the journey, this is necessary. If this life form is to move forward to a more advanced consciousness, one has to cleanse out what stands between this point and the next. It's that simple. And again, you know better because you've done it. So never ever judge. If you know better, well, love it. Then you should be patient. It's just like as an adult, when you watch small kids doing what small kids do, they will fall. They may injure themselves. It's necessary, right? How can they learn to walk and do things and have respect for the world if they never experience anything going wrong, right? So they need to go through all of that so they can find balance. They can become productive. They can understand more about how to relate to the world. Right? And as an adult, you know this. If you overprotect kids, they will become horrible little people, and they will not be able to do anything. They will be entitled and vicious, right? So we need to go through a lot of injury and pain to regulate ourselves. It's necessary. So now the toddlers are at it in the, sandbox. And you've been there, done that. So you're not at that level anymore. It doesn't mean that other people are not. So your job as an adult is to love and support. And no matter what the toddlers go through, you are there for them. But you don't judge, right? You try to encourage. You try to install what they may learn from it, how they may build skills, how they may become better versions of themselves as the result of the pain they're going through. Right? So if you want to help the planet right now, again, start with kindness, start with understanding, start with love. Don't for one single moment believe that there's an alternative to this, because then that would have happened instead. So you need to hold space for it. Love it intensely. Love every toddler trying to figure things out, because ultimately, that's what they are doing. That's what you are doing. That's what we all are doing in different ways, all levels of life. So behind all the viciousness and the destruction we see, it's still a spiritual journey of individuals trying to figure things out, trying to figure out who they are and what truth is and how to deal with it. And then all the ego bullshit will have to be worked out. So, and it's absolutely necessary if this life form is to be able to lift itself in the collective consciousness. So hold space and love everyone and support everything that's going on, knowing that there is no other way. You cannot heal someone past their actual level of consciousness. Just like, again, you cannot overprotect a child because they will not learn. They have to go through what they have to go through. And this is what's going on. So this is also, in a way to test yourself and where you're at. Because if you understand that this world is not real, and the purpose of all of this is for everyone to grow spiritually, then you will not point to someone's journey and say, well, this is not right. Because it's their journey and it's none of your business. Your job is to become a better version of you, to increase your capacity for love, increase your capacity for healing, to allow what is, to allow the divine to work through you, not to judge, not to correct, not to criticize, but to the opposite. A small child will not grow from criticism, right? That will make the child scared of making mistakes. The best way to deal with a child is to allow them to figure things out, allow them to, get scratches and whatever it is, and to not tell them that they're wrong. Build strength. So we need to do that in our own life too. Allow yourself to go through your bullshit. Because you have aggression, right? You have all of this inside of you that it's also manifesting collectively. So you need to have the same attitude. When something happens in your life, it's because it's necessary and it shows what you need to work out. So we need patience and love there too. Right? But this planet is now such a wonderful place for spiritual awakening and for a more rapid spiritual advancement. Because it's much more easy to see how things play out, right? And if you want things to be different, you have to be different, right? And you will only be above something when you truly love it without judgment. Because if you're not, you're still part of it. And you're in denial by pointing out that it's wrong, right? That's the tricky part of the ego. So when you're truly above something, you just love it. You embrace it. You hold space for it no matter what it is. You never judge. So try that in your life. Also when it comes to yourself. Also when it comes to other people and those around you. Because that's often where we notice that, there's room for improvement. Right? So we can feel that, we love the world, and then there's this one person that annoys the shit out of us. Meaning that, right. But, that's life. I think, again, in this work, honesty is so important. We don't have to pretend. do not try to pretend that their human journey is something else than it is. We work from there, and we study from there, and then you'll learn over time to master it. But that also means that you are part of lifting, bringing healing and love, and making sure that other individuals are able to reach their spiritual potential their way, not your way, their way. Right? And that is part of becoming a mature spiritual individual. And such an important part of the culture and community and the practices that we're building. It's for all of you to kind of practice that and practice this type of presence in the world. Because then people may also find this work. And back to that space where people can feel that it's okay to be who we are. It's okay to be, who we are, well, all our karma, all our stuff, and we still figure it out. And we can support each other. We can have practices that work. But we don't have to make it weird. We don't have to turn it into something it is not. Because when people turn it weird, it's because they're actually not doing it. We see that often also when it comes to true spiritual insight. You see it in yourself too. Once it's real, it's just normal to you. It's when it's not quite there that we have to make it into something. This is often, again, when you look at people in spirituality and they turn it into whatever, it is because it's not quite there yet, and it's okay. Because then we need all of that other stuff to convince ourselves that we actually understand it. But once it's just part of you, it's invisible. It becomes natural behavior when you're not thinking about it. And then it has impact. We don't make it weird, it's a matter of trying to convince people. Right? Because since we're not practicing and living, by convincing other people that we understand, we can convince ourselves. Right? And when you look at this planet, it's for the most part what we often do. So in this work, it's about just breathe. And be relaxed and be curious. And embrace your true spiritual ambition. And then study, right? And practice and figure things out in your own way. And you will grow, and your natural behavior will change. The natural way you think and feel will change. Your natural presence will change. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to convince yourself either. It's just like everything we practice, we'll get better at. Right? But we do it fast. So even though you can relax and learn that, it's still having that laser focus and dedication. Because when you don't have to spend your time trying to be someone you're not, trying to be part of a power game of posing and this or that, you can focus all your energy on trying to figure things out. Right? How to become it, how to channel it, and make it real in whatever way it expresses itself. And then we can all kind of share and see that, oh, you understand that, oh yeah, I understand that, and see the different aspects and perspectives and paths. And have an increased appreciation for absolutely every being, every path, every practice, every way. Right? So this is also why this work is different from everything else on this planet. Because humans like to do it the opposite way. It's forcing oneself into one collective mold, one belief, one practice, and then everything is measured based on how well you're doing that one thing. And it can only lead you so far. True spiritual awakening is you. It's your divine dialogue. You can't fake it. You can't copy. It is the true acknowledgement of you as a spiritual being, as you as a divine spark. And keeping the focus and dedication there, and then learn and experiment and see what actually, how do you nurture this? Right? So this is where we keep the focus. And then as this grows, you will just see that your life will transform. And you will move closer and closer to what and who you are in your own way. So when you share and when you talk with people, it will be more principle. Because it's not about what kind of you are doing, because that belongs to you. It's more the principle that they can then use in their own way. So in this work, we focus on spiritual principles, mechanisms, because that is something everyone can relate to and try out. But how those mechanisms work in you will be unique to you. How a principle will resonate in you in your process will be different, right? So it's then easier also to assist other people, because you don't say like, this is what reality is and this is what truth is, and therefore you are wrong. We try to nurture how this may kind of awaken in someone based on their journey, who they are. So embracing your uniqueness and understanding that there is nothing wrong with you. You are already on a path of spiritual awakening. You always have been. God is already talking to you. You have just forgotten what it means to be part of a conversation. Enlightenment is inevitable because it's who you truly are, once you peel away everything else. And it's that deep acknowledgement that is the foundation for this work. And this is why it's not about changing you. It's about you regaining your memory, restoring your true nature, and allowing you yourself to be who you truly are fully. I think this is it for tonight. I would like for all of you to just, talk with students if you're interested, and for you to get to know kind of their journey, like what is this, how to do it, and we can take it from there. You can sign up for the education if you want to. If not, that's also fine. Your journey is your journey. But you're more than welcome to join us. And it doesn't matter what your experience of spiritual work is. And if you see yourself as advanced or a beginner, it doesn't really matter. Because you are who you are. Truth is what is. And the rest we can figure out. So don't hold yourself back, and don't be afraid, and don't, try to look at all those stories. This work is about you and your journey, and for you to gradually master your own existence and your own path and your own destiny. So that's it for me. My love is always with you.
Thank you, IKYA. Nora and I will come up for any practical questions. We'll keep going online, but for those who want to get up and start to talk with others, whatever, but Elsa has the microphone here. And if we don't have any practical questions, then we can just wrap up and let you guys chat. Anyone have any practical questions for Elsa, to give you the microphone. You can sit down. Any practical questions? Nope. Okay. And maybe Aki, do you see any practical questions online? Since I moved away from online? All right, good. Well, I think we'll then close it up. Let you say 2 words. I can just mention that, but it's all on the website. You know, it's on Wednesdays, the teachings, and one big change is that we're actually moving to 11 crystals for the year instead of 12 to try to accommodate taking in the vast volume of teaching and balance things. So that's an exciting shift that we'll do. And that will mean that the price will stay the same so that we don't have any increase in price, and going to 11 crystals. So it's a really nice balance for this spiral, as we call it, spiral 6. Maybe you can just say goodbye while I go back, and then I can close it.
I will say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for joining us, online and physical. Go have a snack and chew on these principles, chew on the teachings, and connect with the others who have studied with IKYA for a while if you have questions. And we really hope you had some questions answered tonight, and that we see you again. Thank you so much for coming. Good night.
And for those of you who are online, if